Well, good evening. Thank all of you for being here this evening. This is our quarterly Let's Talk Columbus. For those of you that don't know, this was begun by our previous mayor, Teresa Tomlinson. It was called Let's Talk with the Mayor. We decided to broaden that a little bit and call it Let's Talk Columbus because that's what we're all interested in. I do want to make sure you know that we've got a couple of counselors here. Counselor Charmaine Crabb and Counselor Tyson Begley are both here to listen in this evening. Also want to introduce, City Manager is going to be introducing the department heads and folks representing different departments in just a moment. But I wanted to ask our interim chief, Stoney Mathis. Chief Mathis, if you'd stand up. Just wanted to let you have a face to put with a name. He's doing a great job. He's been in the saddle for just a couple of weeks, and we appreciate what he's doing. The point of tonight is try to get you the answers that you're interested in, and the way we typically do that is if you look around, you'll see we have a lot of our department heads here. So it's not that the mayor has all the answers, and believe it or not, I'm not even sure the city manager has all the answers, but I know these folks do. So what we'll do is we'll just jump right into questions and answers. But first, I want to introduce our city manager, Isaiah Hughley, and ask him to come up and kind of let you know who's here in the audience that are going to be able to take some of your questions this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we do believe we have the right department heads here. Not all of them are here, but the ones who would be able to answer many of the questions that you have this evening are here. And so if you are a department head, assistant department head, would you just stand? Let us see who you are. And so we've got Deputy City Manager for Planning and Development, Pam Hodge, here. And so roads and infrastructure and inspections and codes and things like that are just examples of some of the things she deals with: community reinvestment, home, community development block grant, and so forth, so on. And of course, the mayor has introduced the interim police chief, Stoney Mathis. So glad you're here, and as I call your name, you can sit down. Seth Brown, who is crime prevention. You know Seth Brown, many of you. And we have Rosa Evans, who's the director of Metro. They've got some great things going. Everett Fleming, the assistant director of Metro. They have acquired a lot of grants, and they've got some great things going at Metro. We've got Drell Short, who's director of public works, and they handle almost any and everything outside of public safety. The largest department we have, and they touch every household in so many different ways. We've got Michelle, I want to say Brown, but Assistant Director of Public Works. Kanita is very new, and she's over Animal Care Control. Santa John Pittman is new over waste, integrated waste. We got Chief Smith, Tim Smith, Fire EMS. Thank you, sir, for being here. Ryan Pruitt, who's over Inspections and Codes Department, overgrown weed, junk vehicles, and building inspections and codes and things of that nature. Ryan Pruitt. Donna Newman is over our engineering department. Will Johnson, planning department. And we got Holly Browder over Parks and Rec, and Tiasha Johnson, our Director of Communications, Community Affairs. We got Danielle, 311. Stand up, Danielle. Danielle is Director of 311. If you see something and you want to say something and do something about it, you need to call 311 or enter a work order in the system. And Danielle is over 311 and does a great job. And then we've got Rob Scott, who's Director of Community Development, Community Reinvestment, and he's over Community Development Block Grant, known as CDBG, and Home Program. And so we've got some fantastic programs going in community reinvestment that you need to be aware of. And so, Mr. Mayor, that's who we have here, and this is the team ready to answer your questions and respond to your Quincy Pierre, Homeland Security. Thank you, Quincy, for being here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. As you can tell, we've got the folks here tonight that should be able to answer your questions, but keep in mind the importance of this opportunity for us to talk to one another is not just for us to get you answers, because there are going to be some answers we may have to research and then get back to you on. But the significance of this is for you to be able to share with us the things that are really important to you. And we know that there are some issues that are important to every one of us, certainly the crime that we've been experiencing that is, you know, it's not unlike what's going on in other parts of the country. My wife and I sit there and watch the morning news, and we've talked about stopping doing that, because all there is bad news going on around the globe, it seems like. But we are working on that. Chief Mathis is in the process of formulating his strategic plan that he is wanting to put into place, and we've got a number of things that we're doing through Seth Brown's office and through some of the partner organizations that we've got, like Cure Violence and some of the other initiatives that are just being launched. So this is an opportunity for us to hear from you and try to bring some answers or maybe some clarification. And if we can't, then it's an opportunity for us to take away a to-do item that we can research and get back with you. So what we'll do is we'll just ask you to be orderly, and if you raise your hand, we'll call on you, and then you come up to one of the microphones and let us hear from you. All right. So anybody want to start us off? Yes, ma'am. Come on, Eileen.
Hi, my name is Eileen Kent, and one is an idea, and the other is a question. I went to the memorial wreath laying at 11th and Broadway the other day, and a member of your diversity, equity and inclusion department was there, and he talked about how we're going to get the monument from Brian Stevenson's organization to commemorate what happened. Is there any chance that an apology would be part of the dedication of the monument?
I think what Ms. Kent is talking about is there's a subgroup of our Mayor's Commission on Unity, Diversity, and Prosperity that has been working with an organization called the EJI, the Equal Justice Initiative, and they have a remembrance project. And it centers around the museum that they have in Montgomery, and there are artworks there to commemorate the racial terrorism, the lynching that took place in every county in our state. And what you can do is go through a series of programs as part of this remembrance project, and when you complete them all, then you can apply to have that monument relocated into your community, just to kind of make sure you own your history. And one of those is a plaque or recognition at a site where a lynching took place. And we actually have a site here in Columbus, Georgia. And so we'll pass that on to the committee that is working on that. Okay. But I do know that they are getting very, very close to, and they've done things like have fierce conversations. They've invited very diverse panels to meet and have very honest, very gut-level conversations about equality and about race. Yeah. And then there's also there's a soil project where they have soil they recover from some of the areas that have been involved in some of these acts. And there's also an essay contest that the Muskogee County School District Correct. Participated in. Yeah. So all of those are pretty much getting close to the end. So we'll pass that through.
And here's my brilliant idea.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm from New York City, and I kind of lived at Central Park. And Central Park is the Conservancy is part public, part private, with most of it being privately funded. Well, I was walking along the Riverwalk the other day, and I came across the Horace King Memorial Heritage Marker, and there are so many very cool markers along the Riverwalk that are just in such disarray. So my idea is, to take portions of the Riverwalk and, solicit to organizations that might want to be responsible for and I'd be happy to take this on, that might be responsible for
Kind of like Adopt a Mile.
cleaning up,
Like
huh?
Kind of like Adopt a Mile. Remember when they did that?
Yeah, exactly. But even just adopt a couple of streetlights, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We can let our Parks and Rec Director, Holly Browder, is here, and
Okay.
we'll look into that.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Travis Chambers, quick question. I know that a lot of T-Splosh dollars have been allocated to the city, and I know that we're looking at some streetscapes on St. Mary's Road. Are there any other areas in South Columbus or East Columbus that we're looking at maybe doing some streetscapes?
Yeah, there's some streetscapes planned for South Lumpkin Road, and there's also streetscapes planned on Second Avenue. That will coincide with a DOT, Georgia DOT project to completely reconstruct that road, because Second Avenue has bricks under there. It's an old road, and that's why we struggle with potholes on that road so much. So DOT is going to redo that entire street, and then we're going to do the streetscapes. But there's more money in South Columbus too.
So just a couple others to mention, Andrews Road is one corridor, Brennan Road, Casita Road from 10th all the way to the roundabout are kind of the three that we had 21 projects in the T-Splosh. So South Lumpkin Road is another one. So there's probably at least half. I don't know if Mr. City Manager, you can think of Steam Mill Road is another one. And I have the complete list if you, I can get it to you if you want to just give me a minute, I can pull the list up.
Well, and some of the ones that come to mind, we've got Steam Mill Road for one. We've got Brennan Road, streetscape. We've got Andrews Road, streetscape. We've got Morris Road, streetscape. We're going to be doing South Lumpkin Road, streetscape. And of course, you've got the interchange of the Virgin Diamond at Buena Vista Road. You've got I-185 Casita Road. You've got, we're going to do some intersection improvement at where Brennan and, Brennan, Buena Vista, St. Mary's all come there together in that intersection. And then Casita Road, there's going to be some work from 10th Avenue out to Brown Avenue. There's going to be a roundabout at Brown Avenue, and then I believe a roundabout that we're planning for North Lumpkin, South Lumpkin. And so that's just to name a few. And this is not money that we are looking for. It's money that's committed either through the 2012 T-Splosh or the 2022 T-Splosh or the special purpose local option sales tax. And over the next 10 years, we are spending $1.1 billion on roads, infrastructure, not money that we're looking for, money that is allocated out of one of those funding sources that I just mentioned. And so that's not what might come next year and the year after, but that is what's already on the books.
Okay, great. One last question before I take my seat. I know Second Avenue is the gateway to Columbus. There are a lot of blighted areas. If you go a couple of streets over, boarded up houses, and I know, if I'm not mistaken, that the demolition budget probably was cut by $300,000, somewhere around. What are we planning? What are the plans for the blighted areas, as well as affordable housing?
Yeah, actually, that's two great questions. We could have a town hall, I think, just on the affordable housing piece. The blight we've been addressing from the minute I got in office. We used to budget about $50,000 to $75,000 a year to take down some of these properties that are not only eyesores and detracting from the community that they're in, but also they're a magnet for crime, because people are going to find empty houses to go do no good. But we bumped that up to $1 million and kept that for, I think, about 3 years. And we may have lowered it a little bit this year, but we are still focused, completely focused. We've taken down old trailer parks that have caused so much problems, because we're convinced that some of that blight actually contributes to poverty, to crime, to low test scores, because you can't feel good about where you're going if you go buy this stuff every day. Now, we have just started with the CPD's help. We had a guy, Josh, what was Josh's last name? Crawford, came in and talked about ways to impact crime. And one of the things he pointed out was, if you're strategic about the removal of blighted properties and you rank them in terms of where the most calls are, you can have better success in controlling crime through that. So we've just started, Josh in my office has started working with Rod Graham over at the police department to get an overlay of maps so that we can see where the calls are, see where the blighted properties are, and we're going to prioritize those and start them. Pat Frey is with Home for Good, and she is kind of heading up right now a program for to really strategically approach affordable housing, and I don't really like that term because that's a floating term. I mean, depending on where you are in your station in life, affordability has a different meaning. Right. So the challenge is to try to encompass a holistic approach to this. They're engaging in a study, I think, with Georgia Tech that is going to help us to identify ways in which we can make a lasting impact. And one of the things that Pat's been at, she has mentioned that is critical, is the sustainability of whatever plan gets put in place. And it's going to change with economics. It's going to change with just time. So it's got to be revisited on a very frequent and very regular basis. Yeah.
Mayor, we had a conversation, and you asked specifically about street one over from 2nd Avenue, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 6th Street, that whole area that you just off Manchester, or the 5th Street. And Mayor, we had a conversation, and you know that we went on a bus ride, and we took, how many department heads in here went on the bus ride? Stand up for a second. I just want to make a point. These are just some of the ones. Yeah, Councilor Coker, you were on the bus ride. You were on the bus ride. Well, these two councilors were on the bus ride, so thank you for going on the bus ride. And so you, Councilor Tucker, you were on the bus ride. And so we got these councilors and department heads, and we took a bus. And you all know that we went up and down every street over there. I cannot tell you how many requests to clean up your property. We stopped, got off the bus, and Ryan Pruitt and his people and Drell Short, and they issued citations all day that day that we went on the bus ride. And so the specific area that you asked about, we went, and then not only did we do it there, we went to Carver Heights on the bus ride. And we issued citations all over Carver Heights. And so I just want you to know that we're out working and about cleaning up your property and identifying properties for demolition.
And that reminded me that the city cannot get to every single one of those places. It's a physical, manpower, and financial impossibility. But what we do is we partner with other organizations. There's a church, True Spring, that's over in that area. And what they're doing in terms of rehabilitating properties, work skill development, they've actually had a trade school they put together to teach them construction skills, and they're working on the houses in their own neighborhoods. Right. So they're now constructing this. When they started the True Spring Academy, they probably had, 15 kids, if that many? It's like 64 now that they're taking care of. So that's been a key strategy here in Columbus that other communities struggle to duplicate, is that we've got people who care enough about this community that they'll partner with us. And they'll say, listen, give us some resources, and we will provide the effort to try to get some of these changed. They're redoing 12 houses along 6th, which backs right up to Wilson Apartments, which we've had a lot of problems with. But in their own words, they're reclaiming that entire area one street at a time. So the city manager and I worked with some of those individuals to present to council, who approved unanimously, contributing some money to help them continue to run that trade school. The idea is to take that template, because it's working, and be able to move that into the Casita Road area, into Oakland Park, into Benning Hills, into other areas that desperately need a champion to help them try to correct some of the things that are going on. Long answer, but it's a big question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, City Council, members, and staff. Thank you.
And I think the city manager did mention we do have two other counselors that made it in with Kogel and Tucker, so appreciate them being here. Anybody else? Right there, yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, Chief. My name is Christopher Smith. I'm the Sally Little League president over at Shirley Winston Park. Last night, I was there during the events that took place. What happened last night shook me to my core. When you have teenagers trying to find somewhere just to have fun, and they were doing that with water balloons and water guns, and somebody goes to the extreme and shoots up a park. Luckily, 30 minutes prior to that, all my children had left the park to go home. I know it's been a problem across the city. I've been here since 2018. I PCS'd here to Fort Benning. I'm not from here, but I plan on making this my home. Last night I debated if I was leaving here or not. But I'm not gonna leave my kids. I need help to keep my kids safe. I need help to fix our park. And I don't know what else to do, if this is the forum for it or not. Excuse me.
So, Mr. Mayor, we've worked together before, and I appreciate all your efforts that have been done in the past. But we have seen at all of these parks for the Little League. We had it at Lake Bottom Park earlier in the season. We had multiple incidents at Shirley Winston. We had, I believe, Reagan Park was on the list a couple nights ago. And it's getting to the point where we're just losing kids. They're not, going to come out and play anymore with us at these ball fields. We host tournaments. Jackie Robinson Day tournament was supposed to be held at Sally Park this year. And we're kind of getting to the point where we need some help. And like Chris said, don't know if this is the right form, but we've got to at least step up and say, hey, we need somebody's help.
No, this is the right form. It's, you're exactly right. And it's particularly offensive when they come into the ball fields where you've got little kids.
Yep.
And there's a number of things that keep me up at night. This is top of the list. And I don't want anybody to get hurt, but particularly a kid that's out at a ball field or a soccer field or just running around throwing water balloons. We have talked about reinstituting sort of we used to have park rangers years ago. I'm not sure the park rangers of yesteryear would be able to stop some of this stuff, frankly. But we have talked. We have every other week, we have all of the public safety heads, the chief, the sheriff, the warden, the fire and EMS, Homeland Security, and we meet every other week, and we talk about ways we can be creative to try to provide more safety for these folks. One of the ways we've come up with, the warden has some individuals who we could use at some of the parks. Challenge is making sure we know when the activities are at the park so that they can kind of drive through and be visible. And the sad thing is that even though they're visible, some of these knuckleheads that are carrying guns are still gonna try to do stuff like that. But we are also working, and I know we talk about it, but Dr. Hiltz, Sante Hiltz is here. She's part of an approach called Cure Violence that they have ramped up. They've hired several people now that are beginning to try to get involved with the gangs and talk to them about other ways to be able to get the money. I didn't realize until I think the other Josh was here, and they were talking about the average drug dealer that everybody thinks makes so much money, makes less than what a minimum wage employee would make. But they don't know any better, and they are at home with no guidance oftentimes, and they end up being recruited into these gangs. So our philosophy has been that we're going to make sure we continue, council has committed to continue to invest in programs. Seth Brown, his organization provides grants to any program that has as its core mission reducing violence. And we've got the job skill training resources available. We can do everything except take them by the hand and go up and try to get them involved in this. And the kids that do get involved in this, we're going to make sure they don't fail. But the young folks that make that conscious decision not to do it, then the effort changes, and then it's the sheriff's department, police department. It becomes their mission to find them, catch them, and lock them away for as long as we can. We will bring you an update on the process of trying to get some of these folks riding through those parks. But it'll have to be, again, a collaboration. We'll have to know when you're going to be out there. Let us know if there's something going on so that we can send somebody patrolling through.
That's not a problem, Mr.
Chief
Mayor.
Mathis, I don't know if you have something.
Yes, first I'd like to say,
Chief.
fathers, parents, this is just the world that we kind of live in today, and I don't accept it. If you guys did any research on me, you see that I'm a crime fighter. There's community policing, and I'm huge in community policing, but we have to enforce the laws. And right now, I'm trying to deal with a lot of cultural problems within the police department, but I've already put together a strategic plan to enforce the laws in the community with roadblocks, with directed patrols, with heavy enforcement. And I have to tell you, without the police officers being out there making traffic stops, looking for these guns that are out there on the street, sometimes you're going to be caught up in a roadblock that might make you be late for dinner for 5 minutes. Just know that these police officers out there trying to find those guns. They're trying to put these bad guys in jail. Me and the sheriff have made a commitment to each other to work together, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to work together. We're going to put these criminals in jail. They're running around shooting people, innocent people, almost every weekend. And the only way to put a stop to that is heavy enforcement. And that's unfortunate that that's where we're at right now. But then what we do is we do heavy enforcement, and then we back off again. And then we can build better relationships with the community. Just know that we can't do it without your support. We can't do it without your phone calls. We can't do it without the information that you provide us to put these people in jail. But I feel you. You know, I come from the south side of Atlanta, so this is nothing new to me. If you do any history or background on me, you see that I reduced the crime rate by 52% where I came from. The only way to do that is twofold: build a relationship and enforce the laws.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, sir.
I'll step down,
That's good.
sir. For those of you that are involved in the community projects that are trying to help build relationships and I guess get these kids on a better path, I have pretty much the entire Sally board over here, as well as the District 8 staff. That is one of the core things that I've asked them to look into, is how do we support the city? How do we support other organizations? So please, let's try and link up and share some contact information. We'd love to be a part of that.
Well, thank y'all for bringing that this evening. I think we've got Ms. Elamese coming. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor and Chief Mathis, Peachtree Mall has become a dangerous place. And it just didn't start yesterday. It was going on long before you got here, Chief Mathis. And what is baffling to me is that these known hot spots in the city where murders are repeatedly happening in those spaces. Wilson Homes has had a high number of murders over the last 3 years. We know where the disputes are taking place because it's about business. It's about drug business. It's about you came on my turf and you start selling to my customers, etc. So if the police know this and you don't have enough officers, how are you creating a strategy, Chief Mathis, to really put the people in jail and take a bite out of crime? You just got here, but this has been going on for years. The murder count has been steadily rising for a decade. And I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk. But the objective reality is there are not enough police here to do what needs to be done with the well-organized young people who have guns. They are well-organized. I've been confronted by them trying to sell me drugs at Wilson Homes. It is so out in the open and obvious. And I'd like to hear about that strategy, Chief Mathis. Exactly what is it that you can do what hasn't been done in approximately a decade as the gangs continue to get better organized? And they are rich. They got plenty of money. And they prey on poor people. So in public housing, if they bring the chicken home, if they bring the other stuff home, because they got the cash. So unless the mayor has a plan to do something about poverty and the growing homelessness that Pat Frey told us about, up 14%, we have got to do something about poverty in this community, Mr. Mayor, in order to stop the young people from choosing the path of crime rather than the path of education for success. And you did see my questions I sent you this morning.
I think we've got them. We've got some questions with, on some cards, so it's probably in there.
Oh, yeah, about the chief thing and a bunch of stuff. I sent you about 3 or 4 questions.
They wrote them down. We've got them. We'll pull them up.
Okay, good. But I would like to hear from Chief Mathis. I'm so glad you're here because you do have a stellar reputation in the places where you've worked, and it's impressive. So what's your creative idea for taking a fresh look at something we've been dealing with for a decade? Organized crime, young people.
Thank you, Ms. Elamine. And you did mention the poverty, and we are, we're partnering with the United Way, and the city is helping to fund a program to try to get to focus. United Way's stated objective, and it's a moonshot, but they want to reduce poverty by 50% over the next 10 years. Is that right? It can be, and we have partnered with them, and there's a number of other initiatives that are underway that are hoping to break that cycle of poverty by breaking that cycle of violence, the generational cycle. I know they just at a council meeting, some exciting news. There's a pilot program they're calling C3. It's a collaboration between Parks and Recreation in extending hours at one of our rec centers and allowing other organizations that cater to youth, the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, all of the Girls Inc., and they're going to stay open till about 11 and allow them to be utilized by these partners to program in there. All of those things start chipping away because they draw, and you've taught me this, they all pull from the same bucket and they all put back in that bucket, and that bucket is poverty.
The ones we have lost already, they're too well organized. So we've lost them. That's what you're talking about is good for the young ones in elementary school that we haven't lost yet. But the ones in middle school and high school that have dropped out, we've lost them. And they're out here.
And there's some in that age group, that 16 to 24, the disengaged youth, some of them we have lost. And some of those are going to end up in the prisons. And I'll tell you, we don't give up on them once they're in prison. Warden Walker has, just since he's been here at Muscogee County Prison, I don't know the total number, but he has had welding classes that he's had folks graduate from. He's had OSHA classes. He's had forklift driving. skills that they come out of prison with something that they're immediately employable. So we're trying to hit it from the recidivism piece, because we found out that we do have a number of folks that stay in Columbus. And if you don't find them housing and a job right away,
They go back to what they know.
that's right, that's right. Back here, I'm sorry, I saw her. One of you. Okay, come on. If you would come to the microphone, there, it's on CCG TV. Yeah, but they can't hear you over the broadcast.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
How are you? Good to
Well,
see you
how are
again.
You too.
Forgive me for being nervous. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it's now my time, and I overcame my fear. So here I am. Mayor, thank you so much for everything you are doing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I wanted to come here today because I'm an insurance agent, and I'm in these neighborhoods. Y'all, 31906 and 31907, they are homeowners in these neighborhoods. Yes, there are a lot of rental properties, but they are homeowners. And the homeowners know what's going on in these communities. They know. So my thing is, how come you guys won't just partner up with the homeowners, because they tell me everything. So-and-so down the street is doing this, we have this over here in the corner, and they're on their front porch and they're recording everything that's happening. So that's my first advice to you. Partner up with the homeowners in this neighborhood. And you'll see them, they have about 5 or 6 cars in the driveway. And then some of them, there's toys all over the place. And then some of them, they have well-manicured yards, and you can tell that they live there. So my advice to you is to try to get to know them first, because they will tell you everything about a community, especially off of Casita Road, Far Road, Forest Road, that street that's in between, let's make sure, the street that's in between, Woodruff Farm Road, that area too. So that 4 area, those are homeowners, and they will tell you what's going on, okay? Now, second thing, everybody, we gotta admit, we're dealing with a different group of generations. The jobs are here. They'll get a job and they don't want to go, okay? They make about 2 or 3 weeks of checks, and they make a decision that this is just not cut out for me. So if we're really trying to like eliminate something, let's get to know what's going on with these kids and their mindset, because you have the good kids and of course you have the bad kids, and no kid is bad. It's just that they just haven't had the same opportunity that all of us have been afforded to, right? So if we can just get to know them. And my last thing is, when I decided to come back here from Atlanta, y'all, it was hard. It was hard. And it was hard because I wanted to raise my kids in a place where I didn't have to deal with traffic. It's such a pleasure to hop in your car and get someplace within 10 minutes. Okay? Now, I am not comfortable with taking my kids to the Peachtree Mall, and I'm worried that they're gonna be shot. I'm not. So I sent my kids back up the road. I'm not kidding you, I did. And so I just wanted to say, if we can just kind of partner a little bit more with the people that are the homeowners, I think you guys will be onto something. And then recognize that there is a difference between our generation and the generation that's here now. They don't necessarily like to work. For whatever reason, they're making money quicker than you and I, okay? They make money way quicker than you and I. And I don't know what projects, I don't know what they're doing, but as far as in, the opportunity that's out here, going to work and working and dealing with discipline, someone like him telling you what to do, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't. And so if y'all can just get into the mindset of understanding these kids, I think we'll be on to something.
No, well said. And I will tell you that you mentioned something that is a big challenge for our law enforcement, and that is getting those neighbors to talk to them the way they talk to you. Because when you put on that badge for whatever reason, it's snitches get stitches and all that stuff, and that's kind of what they will tell you. So absolutely, if we get to a place where the neighbors are absolutely open with our police and our sheriff's department, I think you'll see a lot of these things stop, because somebody sees something. That isn't the first time that kid has walked down the street with a gun in his gym shorts. So encourage them to be upfront. There'll be a shooting at a party, and we show up, 50 people there, nobody saw a thing. Nobody can describe who did it. And what was, and your other question was on the kids not wanting to work. I'll tell you, I agree, but there's a number of initiatives going on in our community right now that's trying to integrate them into a work environment. I know the City of Columbus has a Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program. We're going to have about 82 kids this time, paying them $14 an hour. Half of the day they go to a class to learn how to deal with some of this stuff, to learn how to take supervision. People aren't predisposed to wanting other folks to tell them what to do. But when it's your boss, if you like the check, you got to do what they say. So we're trying to get this age group, which is the 16 to 24, they call them the disengaged youth. And we're looking for kids in census tracts that, I don't want a kid that wears a tie to school. I want a kid that's got 1 foot in bounds, 1 foot out of bounds. And one push either way could determine that kid's future. So we're trying to, and we've got some excellent partners in the community that are doing the same thing. I know the Chamber is launching, I don't know enough about it to really start talking about it, but it's a STEM-based program that they're going to start trying to bring this same age group in there and see if they can spark an interest with some of the technology. But you're right. Even if they enjoy it for the 2 months we're going to be able to provide it for them, we'll see how many of them actually go into work. And we've got jobs, don't we? Yeah. We can put them to work with the city government. So, yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Nichia, and I come here today as a visitor. So I'm just here as a contract worker. So I work at a medical facility.
Okay.
But I'm just here because when I came, I'm a rambler, and I'm not a good public speaker, so just bear with me. I just wanted to, it was some things that when I came, I was really taken back by in Columbus. First was the amount of churches on each block. There were no community centers, no recreation centers. Another thing that blew me, and I'm not trying to talk down on your city, was the 9% sales tax. And we need to talk about that and wages, because you talk about crime and you talk about, someone mentioned about the youth not wanting to work. Well, when you're going to work and you're not, even adults. So let's just say I make pretty good. My coworkers who are at my job, who are there permanently, they are literally making what I made in 2003, literally. And it's sad. So what quality of life is that? I mean, it seems like there's nothing to do. 9% sales tax, 2% on food. Where's the money going? Like, where? So my mom, she lives in Tuskegee, and I was thinking about like maybe moving here, but I would have to be really convinced. Even when I go to the market here, I'm taken back by my total. And then I'm even more outraged when I see 2% on groceries. There's probably nothing you can do about this. I'm just rambling at this point. That's a necessity. People have to eat. So when you want to talk about poverty, we have to talk about 9% is even more than New York, and that's a fact. You guys are paying more in taxes than New York in this little town. So, I mean, it sounds good about programs and this and that, but when people don't even they're not even making a living wage. So then you talk about crime. Okay, well, they have to survive. I'm not talking about violent crime, but maybe selling drugs and things like that. People have to eat and feed their families. And I'm not making excuses, but I mean, I had made a wrong turn somewhere, and I travel extensively the world. So I've been in places like the real slums in different countries. And if someone would have dropped me down and blindfolded me and opened my eyes, I would have thought I was literally in a third world country on this block. And people were actually living in these houses. And I'm not oblivious, because I'm not going to say where, but Philly, Jersey, up in that region. So I'm not oblivious to the crime and poverty. I've seen it. But if you could just answer, what are you doing? What are you guys doing with the tax money? Why is it so high? I say all that to say that. And like, we're the community center. Why is it like 20 churches on each block? If the homelessness population, it should be none for all the churches. Why? Why is it 20 churches on this block and 6 on that? And then you got fast food, and you got automotive services, it's just, whatever. That's all I have to say. But yeah, I do want to know about that 9% and that 2% on food.
Yeah, well,
And then the hourly wages that you are paying your citizens.
we're paying our workers much more than minimum wage. We pay, the lowest employee at the Columbus Consolidated Government makes $15 an hour.
Well, where I work,
It's
we
not
don't get
a-
minimum wage.
I beg your pardon?
Let me tell you, I'm a professional. I make 6 figures. But I'm a traveler too, so, you know, it's a little different when you're a contractor.
But you work with people that make less than minimum
I
wage.
I work with, doing the same thing I'm doing, making less than $30 an hour. And that's a fact. I work in a lab. They're making less than $30 an hour. I made that in 2003 or 5,
Well,
It's
we,
2023.
and I think we do, and the government does lead the way in trying to make sure that we're paying people enough for the jobs they do.
That's not enough.
And you've got private industry that are gonna, we've just gotta continue to work to bring in, the best way to get that pay scale up is to bring in other quality jobs, which is what our development authority works on, it's what our chamber works on. Because if you bring in other quality jobs, then the competition for employees is gonna determine that the pay is gonna get higher. So the 9 cents an hours, to break it down, we have a special purpose local option sales tax for some capital improvements and investment in building rec centers and providing for police and providing for fire and purchasing the ambulances and things that are needed just for our community. We have a T-SPLOS that was voted regionally, that we were one of 16 counties. And it just barely passed, I think, here in Columbus, but it passed through the whole area, so that covers our transportation needs. We have 1 cent, which is a local option sales tax. It's 70% of that goes towards public safety, 30% goes towards infrastructure. And then we've got another local option sales tax that goes towards operations. But this community is also hampered with its ability to raise revenue to some degree because we've not arguing the merits of the tax freeze. Believe me, we're not stumping against the tax freeze. But it does limit the appreciation and on residential properties. And then in addition to that, we've got a legislatively imposed 9 mil cap, so we can't raise property taxes. The only reason property taxes could go up is if there was some debt service. And frankly, over the last 7, 8 years, that has gone down. So if you'd have to look at the entire tax structure. I think New York is probably just under 9%.
It is.
And then if you take a look at their property taxes and what's the percentage of their property taxes. And I don't want to compare Columbus to New York, but I'm just saying that you have to look at the entire cost of living. And I know one of the reasons that Columbus, that we're trying to change the perception is we are an exceptionally good low cost of living for the state of Georgia. You're welcome to look it up, but that's why when we deal with Atlanta, we trying to bring employees in from Atlanta, and some of the companies don't mind moving to Columbus because the wages aren't as high. But at the same time, neither is the price of homes, and neither is some of the purchases in some of those areas. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I think it's kind of difficult to start picking individual areas and try to determine whether it's less or more.
Well, I want to counter something you said. It's not cheap living here. It's not.
It's not. No.
It's not.
Not cheap.
It's
Not
not
cheap.
cheap.
It's
It's not.
less expensive than in other areas.
It's not less expensive. It's not, I
Well,
live
I'm
near
just
Philadelphia.
going by
and it's not.
the numbers. I appreciate it.
When I go to the register and I'm like having a part, it's not. They always say the South is cheaper, but this place to live is very expensive.
Okay.
But then you couple that with the wages that people are bringing home, who
Right.
are professionals.
I don't know where you work. I can't speak to what they're making.
Well, I work in healthcare, let's
Yeah.
just say that. And it's not, so,
She doesn't. Yes, ma'am. I think she's. Oh, okay. No, ma'am, I'm not. Come on, Sharon.
I'll get it.
Yes, ma'am.
I was young once.
You still are from where
I'm
I'm
not young anymore. 1968, I had a Chevelle Super Sport. Yeah, I was a sporty person. I had glass pats put on my car, but you just only have a sound so high, and that's as high. Chief, I want to thank you when you said you're going to bring the law back. I was going to ask you, do we not have any laws in Columbus, Georgia? For one thing, that district attorney that ran for office, this man right here, Mr. Hughley, he was a blessing when he ran and saw what they were doing at the Civic Center. Went down to University Avenue today, and there was donuts all over from Columbus State. These charges is coming out of Sears Woods going 50, 60 miles an hour. And when they get on this highway, you can hear them going 100 at least. And I just want to know, why we don't have any noise ordinance about boom, boom music, speed. I wake up 3 or 4 times a night. I just now started going to sleep after Jean died. And I wake up 3 or 4 times a night hearing them going up there making road in Woodruff Farm Road. And I'd just like to know why we're not, I mean, I know, bless his heart, don't have as many policemen, but Ricky, Chief Ricky, he always said, Sharon, you really got me in trouble. I got a million calls because you told me to sit a policeman down and make a road. And we made a lot of money today, but I got a lot of calls. He said, but thank you. And I want to thank you for trying to take this city over. The police department, I feel sorry for them. I love those guys. They've been great. They're doing all they can do. But I'd like to know why we can't stop these charges. And can I get some street signs more, speed signs more in Sears Woods? Because Sears Road is a 60 miles an hour zone. Yosemite on Carroll, bless her heart, she's scared to death somebody's going to run that stop sign on Timberlea.
We had actually a work session just this past week on different ways to try to calm traffic. And some of those are ways like the radar that shows how fast people are going. And everybody, I think most people really, when they think about that, they think about speed tables or speed bumps. And we can't put them everywhere because you can't get everybody to want to do it.
Everybody wants speed bumps on.
There is an ordinance on noise, but it's got to be called in. We got to be able to catch them. There have been a lot of problems with people driving and leaving marks all over the streets and going into parking lots. And so we're actually having a meeting with the judicial system, talk to the judges and ask them if we can get a little help in some stronger cases so that if we catch these folks defacing this property or if they're racing on the roads, we'll try to get them in and hit them with a more stiff sentence. Maybe.
One question, I'm
Yes,
through.
ma'am.
About we're paying taxes on our houses. I don't mind that. I don't mind paying more for the police department. But what bothers me, you go down Sears Road and you see this beautiful home, they don't take care of the yard, and there's a bunch of junk cars sitting in a driveway, on jacks, blocked. I've been out there 52 years in Sears Woods. That's a long time for an old woman to live in one house. But I've seen more things, I'm on the board, but it's wrong, I feel like that should be taken care of. They should, if they own jacks, they don't run, they don't have a car tag.
I'm looking for Mr. Pruitt. There are some triggering circumstances that have to be present, and if they're there, they can go give them a notice to comply. And if they don't comply, they have to come to court, and then they can fine them and have them remove those items. Have you called those in?
Sir?
Have you called those in by any chance?
Yes, sir, I said.
Okay. No, I believe you.
I got a buddy back there.
I believe you. I just wanted to know if we looked up.
Well, you got rid of one neighbor that had 4 jack cars.
We'll-
They foreclosed.
We'll get that other one checked on.
Please try to get me some speed signs on Yosemite, Timberlake, and
So you
Sears
need
Road.
speed signs.
25 miles an hour. We got one on Yosemite, it says 25.
Okay. All right, we'll look into that.
Now,
and
tell
see if
everybody
we-
at home, Skip, don't get me some signs. He don't try to get me some signs.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Bless
Thank you.
Good afternoon
I think she was waiting in line. Go ahead.
to the mayor and the city council.
Beg pardon?
I'm gonna make this
You go
quick.
next. Just hang on.
To the mayor and the city council members, I would like for you all to consider, when someone is on the public agenda, not ask them to give out their physical address due to,
We just, no, I know. We were just talking about that. We're
someone already asked the question? So,
Well, no, it's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up publicly.
Because it's
we'll-
very,
We'll look into that, because it is.
it's very dangerous due to the things that's been happening around here. And I wish you very much would consider that, you and the
Yes.
city council,
We-
on the
we were
next
just
public
talking.
agenda.
One of y'all, they were waiting, I think. Come on.
I'm not good about getting in front of people, so I'm real nervous.
That's all right.
Real nervous. But, so I have been an insurance agent in Columbus for 20 years this year, okay? I've also been heavily involved in animal welfare for the last 20 years in your city. I remember when the new animal control facility was built, with the understanding that because the facility was smaller, that PAWS was going to play a more active role in pulling animals from animal control over. They reduced the capacity by almost half when they went from the prison, the place out by the prison to this place. Okay? My question to you is, number one, I have been volunteering in this city with numerous rescues. I volunteered with animal control. I have put my dollars on the line to save countless numbers of animals in this city over the 20 years that I've been here. My question to you is, sir, what is on the books going forward to change this from a sheltering city pound mentality to a shelter, which is what you would like it to be, or what we would like it to be? I mean, the community as a whole doesn't really want to see these animals euthanized that are healthy, treatable, adoptable. And there are programs in place nationwide that are having great successes with live release rates on the ups of 95%, where they consider it a no-kill shelter. Okay? Many cities, larger than Columbus, smaller than Columbus, bigger budgets, smaller budgets, have implemented these programs and have had much success. My question to you, because animal welfare, as you know, goes hand in hand with poverty. Okay? People that are less fortunate don't have the means or the opportunity to be able to care for these animals properly, and we do have some programs in place. However, I was there at the city council meeting 10 years ago when we presented the no-kill equation to the city. Nothing has changed, okay? Nothing has changed. I have applied for a position within animal control on numerous occasions and have never even got a response. The current manager that is in force now has amped up the killing, as far as I can tell, and I have been over these books back and forth for 20 years. So my question to you, sir, is how do you expect people to go into this facility and volunteer, knowing that those animals might not make it through the end of the day? Because people are tired. Rescues are tired and maxed out. They're at capacity. Volunteers are tired, maxed out, and at capacity. We have asked the city to help. Nothing has been implemented. And my question to you is how many more dead kittens, dead puppies, people tired and exhausted from this work that they have been trying to do to help, only to have the animal killed at the end of the day for space? When we have guillotine doors that could be dropped in emergency situations, it would just take literally a pin through the door to keep it from coming up. Cleaning procedures need to be implemented and they need to be better. Parvo is rampant in this city. It has been for 20 years. Rescues are donating parvo tests to our city shelter. Why are there not funds allowed for these kind of medications and treating these animals that come into your facility? That's it.
That's it?
That's it. I think I'm done.
All right, well, first I'll tell you, well, we'll have to take it in order. One of the things that made me lose my train of thought, I was going to say, first of all, we couldn't function without the volunteers. We are tremendously appreciative of all of these organizations that help us, because when we do get to a point where we just have more than we can hold.
You can't kill your way out of this program.
No, I understand that, but I'm just telling you, you pointed out a very good point, and that was that the shelter, the volunteers and the rescues, their capacity. I was talking to people, 2 volunteers today that run rescues, and they were saying they've never seen it like this with the number of people, and there's some societal things. So I asked them, I said, what if we ramped up some of the legislation both of them said, that's not the answer. Legislation is not going to fix it, because legislation is simply going to put more people, more dogs back into the pound. So I know
disagree
Drayle
with that
is here. I don't know if Drayle wants to make any comment about this, the questions that are being raised.
Good evening, everyone. Hey, come up. Good evening, everyone. So you ask a lot of questions in one long sentence.
Yes.
So let me say, first and foremost, animal control is doing everything that it can. But the mayor is absolutely correct. We have never seen it like this before. Now, I do know there have been questions about intake and how many we're taking in compared to previous years. In previous years, pre-COVID and at COVID, we were down in staffing. We are just getting back to full staffing. When we get back to full staffing, that means we have more people on the road, more animals coming in. Our capacity, our building starts to swell literally because we have too many animals and we have to do something. So we notify all of our rescue partners, all of the directors of those rescue partners, to ask them if they can come by and help. On some days they can, but on many days they can't because they are at capacity.
Understood.
So we have no choice at that point.
But that's where I have a problem.
Well, I understand what you're saying.
That's exactly where the problem is because you're relying on 3 or 4 rescues to take the brunt of this huge problem. And 3 or 4 rescues are
Cannot
not going to
do
be
it.
able to do it.
No.
But we also need active community participation. We need programs in place.
So let me tell you about a program we just finished developing, and we should be starting soon, I'm sure. And it's called CHSP, which is Citizen Stray Hold Program. And what that does and what that means is if you happen to find an animal and you call animal control, you will have the option to hold on to that animal for the full 5 days that we would normally hold it in the shelter, which means we have more animals, right? And we're hopeful that the owner of that animal will come forward within those 5 days and get their animal from that individual. So it never even comes into the shelter. So that's just one program.
That's great.
But the only thing that is going to help us reduce the animal population is to enforce spay and neutering.
And
Or to ensure that every animal that comes out of a shelter, whether it be a private or a nonprofit or a municipal shelter, are fixed. So we have years of catching up to do as far as our shelter is concerned regarding spay or neutering, because for years we've used a voucher program. But we know that unless you have the staffing to support it, it's not a good program. So we are working on ways to improve what we're doing and to improve our programs.
And I appreciate that, I do. But at the same token, what I want you to kind of maybe consider, I'm just throwing it out there. But expand your rescues to more than 4.
Well,
Reach out to Atlanta Lab Rescue, reach out to Pitties and Kitties, reach out to these other rescues and expand your rescue groups that you reach out to for these dogs. The other thing is, you gotta make the posts before 30 minutes before you close. Like, I can't get a dog adopted in 30 minutes. I can help you get a dog adopted, but if you post, this is the last 30 minutes before this dog eats it, I can't help. Nobody can help. And all it does is it stresses out the people that have been trying to help for 20 years.
I understand that. Now, we start posting, and Kenita, you correct me if I'm wrong, we start posting before
Not on your
lunch.
page, not on your page. On the Rescue Partners page, on the Freedom pages, on the, Rehoming page, but not on the city page. And that's where the disconnect is. The city is disconnected from the animal community. They are very disconnected. Because here's the city Columbus Animal Control page, and all it has is like itineraries and things like that. If I'm looking for my dog, I'm gonna pull up Columbus Animal Control. I'm gonna look on their Facebook page. I'm gonna click. The website half works, half doesn't. Sometimes there's pictures, sometimes there's no pictures. Sometimes the pictures don't get uploaded. Sometimes it's a cat and there's a dog in the picture. So, if the city would be more accurate and put the dogs that are up
before their time on the page, we could share it and find these dogs a place to go. But there's no way that we can do it in 30 minutes. And so if there's an overpopulation and if you're at max capacity every day when you open up, then you should be reaching out to every single rescue partner, volunteer, person you know before 5 o'clock.
Well, let me just say this. Every animal that comes into that shelter is put on our website.
That
It
is a lie. That is
Yeah.
a lie. Because I can show you a picture of a dog that was pulled. I can
Listen,
show you a picture on my
We're
phone
happy to
right
talk
now.
to you about some of these issues,
I can
but
tell you
not
right
if you're
now.
going to start making accusations.
No, it's not an
That's
accusation.
okay.
I can show you pictures
That's all
right
right.
here. This dog never made it to the website, Jerome. It never made it to the website.
I'm gonna ask you to take your seat, and
Okay, that's fine.
we'll continue with this a little bit later. No, we're gonna move on. We've got 20 minutes, and there's some other topics that folks want to talk about. Yes, yes, ma'am. This gentleman back here, just sit tight. Yes, you can have another, but not right now. Mr. Amelia, excuse me, ma'am. We can talk about that after this, but we've only got 20 minutes left, and I'm just trying to get to as many of these questions as we can.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Greetings, all. My name is Chaplain Emilio Rosa, Love in Action Outreach Ministries, and Dunamis Chaplains Association. We were talking earlier about crime, talking about all the good programs that the city has. My question to you is, we do have small organizations as my own, and many churches that are willing to partner and help with the situations. We know that the main thing is prevention. And as the gentleman who so emotionally spoke about Little League, so much programs that are there to assist and move the youth and the children out of what's going on. Yet there are many others who would like to partner, such as myself and churches. But the problem we have is there are big organizations that could handle this, but then there are smaller ones such as ours that have so many ideas of what we can do, yet we do not have the resources or know how to get the financial resources. So I don't know if it's a question or a request. Mr. Mayor already knows me, so I would like to know, or how can we get this information out to the churches, to the small groups like myself? If I have an idea, how can I put it in work if I can't afford it? How can we get these grants? How is it that, get that information out there to these organizations that would like to do something? Because listen, someone just said there's a bunch of churches, but if a church over here gets a program going, that church over there gets another program going, it's a bite. It's a little something which could go a long way. So how do we get the information out that, look, we can help you with this, or let's partner here? I think it's important that we get this information out further. Another thing I like to take advantage of right now, I know sheriff is not here. I don't think the sheriff is here. But also I train chaplains. If you don't know what a chaplain is, it's someone that goes out and assists the community. We have people that are willing to go into the facilities, yet there's a facility here that is not allowing us to go in there right now. And you got your reasons, but I'm looking for the venue to be able to deal with this situation, because we do have people that want to help and work with that recidivism, but we can't get in there. There's just two things I just want to throw out there.
Pastor Rosa, thank you. Yeah, and to that point, that has been one of the major stumbling blocks, is being able to communicate with other people who may be doing the same kind of thing, right? So they want to leverage each other and be able to serve more people. That was one of the things that was discussed at the roundtable on the violence, the issue that we're having. And where they're looking to focus attention is at the 211 through United Way, because it wasn't designed as a clearinghouse for resources, but it has a lot of resources on there. So I think they're using that as a base right now to try to expand that and be able to publicize it, so that organizations that all want to help and they want to know if there's another organization like them, they can identify it through that particular location. Because you're right, the connectivity is what's causing us a lot of challenges. He was next, then you after that, and then you go next.
Mayor Henderson, everybody. I'm from the South Columbus area, and I've been starting a thing with horticulture. The mayor, some of them know. And I've been in the criminal element you're talking about. I was part of it. It cost me 15 years of my life. I come back to this community. I have a few mental health incidences too, trying to comprehend and deal with trying to please the police and the law and myself and live. Most of the poverty is caused because we don't have money. I grew up stealing and shoplifting because I didn't have money. I go in the store and eat, and so that's where it's coming from. We had to figure out how to get these young, because I was 14, 15. So I've kind of come up with something. I've been doing the garden, horticulture thing, market garden, and I've run across a couple teenagers that I've been talking to, and I've started my own gang. I'm calling it the Green Palm Gang. We're going to fight the food and income insecurities in the neighborhood. I got a Facebook page for it. I hadn't really published it. We're going to start tomorrow because we're going to help challenge people in the South End. An older lady that I pick up in my cab that I've been helping, her and her grandchildren, we're going to clean out their backyard. We're just using the money I got. And so once we get going, we got T-shirts. So I got a page if y'all want to try to look it up. I'll share it with y'all. And as we get going, we're going to look for yards to do. These young ladies are going to start the plant seedlings. We're going to sell vegetable plants and fruits. We're going to have a little spot at the farmer's market in South Columbus. And so as we get started, I'm hoping y'all look into it and maybe help donate, because I want to get these young people money in their pocket so they don't steal, so they don't have to run into them. Because I've gotten fights with y'all when I was young. I've been drug out to West Central a few times, you know, and I don't want a conflict. I don't really care for the police coming in my neighborhood. And like a certain politician were trying to say, you know, the community police, and that scares us. A badge represents to us over there, some of us, the abuse and just scary. And so I'm hoping my little gang, what I'm doing, trying to grow in the community, they can come, we can, you know, work things out, because people that can just support.
Well, you've been working on projects like this for a couple of years, and appreciate what you're doing, and I hope you continue to be successful.
Yes.
And I'll check out the website, and hopefully these folks will too.
Yeah. Or we're going to be recruiting gang members, y'all. We're going to have
Well,
T-shirts and everything.
if we could change that vernacular just a little bit.
Sir, I feel
But
that
I know where you're
change the
coming from.
mindset, you change the mind.
That's right.
So we got different gang. We're going to be fighting food and income.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. My name is Salethia Long. I have heard a lot of numbers, so I'm just going to say this really quickly. I'm 40 years old. I am the mom of 5. I have 3 biological kids, have an adoptive daughter, and I currently have a 6-month-old foster child. So I am definitely giving back to my community. My question is more so directed towards South and Highly regarding prevention as well as park and recreation. I feel like a lot of the issues that are happening with our youth is because there's nothing to do. I graduated from Columbus High School in 2001, and when I was coming up, some of the things that we had available to us was midnight basketball. The gyms were open. I actually had to volunteer every single summer as part of my volunteer requirements for Columbus High, as well as we also had dances. I feel as though a lot of the children, a lot of the teens, they have nothing to do. They want an outlet. They need to have some way to release this energy, to be able to do something. So my question is, what are some of the plans? What are some of the strategies? What are some of the programs that are being put in place for these youth to have something to do moving forward? I want this community to be here for myself and my children that I'm trying to raise.
Holly, I think what she's talking about is some of the things that C3 is trying to do in this pilot location and then take it out to other locations. Can you come up and just kind of talk a little bit about what Parks and Rec is doing? Because I know Cure Violence just had sort of a mini basketball tournament where they had, 50, 60 kids out for that evening?
Sure. So what you're talking about is what we are just getting ready to kick off, actually next Monday, starting at Frank Tester Recreation Center. To the mayor's point, it's called C3, Collaborative Community Connections. With that comes back many of the programs that you're talking about that we had in the 2000s. Dance, excuse me, dance, arts, music, e-gaming systems, basketball, to your point, like midnight basketball, but also comes with it the hours that we used to have. For your point, we used to stay open later on the weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, and we could play ball or do other activities, lock-ins, block parties, things like that. The C3 program is going to bring that back, and this is our first chance to prove it to the community with a lot of partners. We were in council on Tuesday morning with a lot of the United Way and local nonprofits and churches and Cure Violence, and the list goes on, and we know that we're going to pick up more organizations that are going to see how positive this is, because for the first time in a really long time, we're going to have places like the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, Girls Inc., and Parks and Rec, as well as the organizations I mentioned, doing these type programs, coming together to be able to offer activities for kids of all ages, and not just kids, but our out-of-school, older adults, 18 to 24-year-old, to give them something positive to do. And so those hours are going to look like 9 a.m. to 12 a.m., so 15 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, and on Sundays 2 to 6. So with that, we hope to really be able to give kids a place to go and things to do, but they got to be willing to come. We offer programs all the time in Parks and Recreation and have very little turnout sometimes. We feel like we do a pretty good job of advertising, marketing it, but we still often are struggling to get kids for various reasons. Kids are not into doing the things they did 20 years ago. They're not into the activities or the games they were. So we've tried to rebound and evolve into the things that we know, the things that we hear, and the things that I just mentioned. So program-wise, really hoping to be able to get a lot of kids to come out and show the community that this will work. And then if it works, then we can replicate it in other areas of the community across the city.
Okay, so I just have one quick question to offer that. You said that as far as marketing, you're putting this out, you feel as though the youth don't want to come. How are you putting that out? Like, is that going into the schools? Because I think that would probably be like a very great way to get that information out to those kids. Are this information going over into the Park and Rec departments? Is it going into the Little League areas? Because, like, I literally spend money with travel ball, with sports, to make sure that my kids stay active for that very reason. So how's that information being publicized?
All of the above, everything you just said. It goes out to the schools. It goes on social media, which is way more broad and able for us to get it. It goes into local media. We do interviews. We do radio interviews. You name it, we pretty much put it out. We put it out hard copy sometimes just because flyers, people see flyers with QR codes and things of that nature. But it goes out in any kind of avenue that we have access to. During the school year, we send it to the school district, work really closely with them to send information out, to share special events and activities and programs. So yeah, we're putting out as far as we can. And to the mayor's point, we do have our Passport for Summer coming up that we are already actively engaged in. That's our program for the summer for kids. They can go to any of our rec centers, any of the libraries, the aquatic center, our office, Metra, and pick up a free pass, totally free for the community. Any kids under the age of 18 can use it as long as they live in Muskogee County. It affords them the opportunity for free activities in the summer as well as free transportation. And we've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now. And we were pretty successful. On average, we give out anywhere around probably about 7,500 of those free passes every summer for kids and families to be able to utilize.
Okay.
So yes,
All right.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. She's going to go before you. You're next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Cambridge, and I just want to reiterate, because a lot of my questions have already been asked, but I know that repetition helps things stick to the mind, so I'm hoping that it will stick to the individuals, or stick with those individuals who it's pertaining to. So I wanted to start with the city charter, but before starting with the city charter, I did want to address public safety. We talk about public safety in this room a lot, and I wanted to talk about public safety as it pertains to civic engagement, to the point of having to state your physical address if you appear on the city council public agenda. I feel like a lot of more people would engage civically in that process if that was done away with. If there's a verification that's needed, let it be city-facing. When you have to complete the form online to request to be on the public agenda, I'll send a copy of my driver's license to Ms. Davis if she needs it. You can verify me with Ms. Boren through elections office. They have to have my stuff too. So, but that led me to want to know if that was mandated in the city charter in some way, whatever. But we did vote on some city charter amendments in the election last year. I asked some representatives about seeing the updated and receiving a physical copy of the updated city charter, and I was advised that it has not yet been updated with the amendments that we voted on May 2022. So that's a year later, and that's a concern to me. And then also, when the physical copy is available, that I would have to pay for a printed copy of the city's charter, the city that I live in, that we have to vote on all of these taxes, this, that, and the other. You want me to pay you to print me, a citizen, a copy of the charter in my Teresa Elamine voice? A couple of other questions I had was in reference to the ARPA funding. This city and the school district as well received an unprecedented amount of funding from the federal government with little restrictions on that funding. There was $19 million that was allocated towards automated trash cans and $1 million for community-facing programs for youth. So you mean to tell me that automated trash cans are more important than the youth of this community? That's a rhetorical question. Don't answer it. Mr. Seth Brown and crime prevention and that funding as well. I know we talked about there was the old laws from 2008 city manager. Okay, 2008, and I guess it was $1 million, and it's always been at whatever that was. There are programs up to about 30, 35. They get the funding from crime prevention, an average of 5 to maybe 20,000 for 365 days. We talked about the price of things going up. I don't know what type of consideration would need to be made to increase funding for the Office of Crime Prevention. Thank you.
Is that rhetorical, or do you want me to answer that one?
Oh, and the last thing was, I'm sorry. City council members, we vote for you each and every year. We're in the city council chambers. I live in District 3. Gas is $3.29 a gallon. You can come to me sometimes too, you know? Come to the community, come to your constituents, inform them. Mr. Begley has a newsletter. He got appointed, when he got appointed a month ago, I'm not gonna tell Bruce that I ain't heard from him. But Bruce, I ain't heard from you. Work with city council, work with the school board members, because that's really my lane, education. We live in the same district, you serve the same people, city council, school board members, because I know they're gonna watch this. Miss Pat Hughley Green, that was for you. Y'all get together, work together to work towards getting those disengaged youth engaged. I'm done for real this time.
I'm going to wait till you sit down before I start talking. Thank you. Some of that I agree with. I think we had this lady coming next, right here, if you don't mind. You go after her.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor, I appreciate that. My purpose of being here tonight was to ask, what your plans are and what the city's plans are to stop the murder of our innocent domestic animals at animal control. There are programs, there are cities, there are larger cities, there are smaller cities who have adopted programs to help decrease and I won't say euthanization, because euthanization is when someone is mercilessly put to sleep because they have medical problems and there's no chance for recovery. This is not euthanization that's being done at animal control, it's murder. But there's a lot of things. The kennel spaces could be redone to make more kennel space. The fosters and the rescues are stretched thin. A larger facility would help, but that just makes more holding space for more animals. So far as the control of the population of animals, and I know, somebody said, regulation is just going to cause a bigger problem. No, sir. I think you should have some regulation on some of the breeders, because people are breeding animals, especially your bulldog mixes, what a lot of people refer to pit bull mixes. for that purpose, to make fighting dogs and just to make money. And so there should be some guidelines and maybe licenses issued to, in order to be able to breed certain breeds and things like that. But there are a lot of things that can do, and what I would ask is that you and the animal control manager and the rescues get together. There was a plan 11 years ago that was started, had a lot of good ideas. Here we are, 11 years later, nothing was ever done about it. Nothing. And I want to know why. And I just ask, can we meet with you? Can we meet with, with who we need to meet to? Draw up some plans, hear some ideas, and take some action rather than just murdering these innocent animals. I mean, I was over there every day for 2.5 weeks straight. 5 days, 5 dogs one day, 8 dogs another day, 15 dogs on the euthanization list last Wednesday. It's murder. It's uncalled for. There are things that can be done. So can we meet with
We
you?
will, I don't mind meeting with you, but I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be a civil meeting, or it's gonna be a
That's
very
fine.
short meeting.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. We just,
Well, I'm
we
on-
just want to
we-
be heard with some ideas.
You have been heard. We've got about 60 seconds
We
left,
just want to
so
bring you some ideas and see
I'm gonna
what
let you
can be done.
sit down, and we will get together to talk, okay? We'll let you do that. Thank you. All right, this is our last individual night. You got about 30 to 60 seconds.
Yes, sir. My name is Ronald Marshall. I emailed the mayor, city council. I emailed the city manager. I emailed Ryan Pew. I have not got an answer from neither one of the two or three. I emailed y'all April the 10th.
What was the question?
The question was with the order that we had at 2920 Lee Street, where it was 32 cars removed from that property. And I know that y'all was aware of it.
32.
32.
I believe the property that you're speaking of,
Yeah.
there were like 50 plus vehicles, right?
It was 50.
In a residential neighborhood, right?
They was on scene out there.
No. Let's be fair. And I think we had a long conversation. If you have 52 vehicles on residential property where people are living next door and across the street, we are not going to have that in Columbus, Georgia. And so we gave you a request to comply, and you had so many days to comply. You brought the subject up, right?
Never, not going against
Well,
it.
let me just
never
finish.
was Ronald Marshall, never signed.
Let me finish. Let me finish. I live on Steam Mill Road. I am not going to let you have 52 cars on a residential property on Steam Mill Road. And so we gave you a request to comply, and we gave you so many days to get those vehicles out of that residential property next door and across the street from other people. Who wants 52 vehicles parked next door to them and behind the house because he says you can't see them? Anybody in here accept that? No. Yeah, and so we told you, get those vehicles out of that residential neighborhood, and we told you, if you don't, we're gonna tow them off. And we brought a tow truck, and we started towing. And by the time we got 25 of them towed, you came out with the tow truck and you started towing. Is that right?
I had maybe 6 tow trucks.
Okay.
I furnished
I
6
guess,
tow
and I'm gonna
trucks,
just
yeah.
end it there.
Right.
If you got one junk vehicle next door to me, that's one vehicle too many.
Okay.
And so we are not going to tolerate that in Columbus, Georgia. I just want to be very clear.
And I understand that, but now what I want to understand is that you come in and you remove those vehicles.
Off
And
from-
I asked off of that property.
Yeah.
And I asked for one thing.
Yeah.
And I know that you all have read and seen that email on April the 10th, which has not been answered yet, sir. The email, what we do, ignore the email to
Well,
sideline?
and I'll talk to you
I didn't-
afterwards, but
Okay,
let me
come
just
on.
say this. You called me, I returned your call, and we had a very lengthy conversation.
You
Is
know,
that
we've
right?
had conversations before.
And
you
I'm
know.
straight up with you.
Yeah, and I'm straight with you. But I
And-
asked for a question and I can't
and
get an answer.
we are not going to tolerate that in neighborhoods. Go buy you a piece of commercial property and move 52 junk vehicles to commercial property, but not next door to citizens.
But I agreed to that, I understood that, but now.
I'm
I
done
asked
with
a
that.
question. I asked a question, and the question is, was due process there? No, because you couldn't come back and answer the email.
Did we ask you to comply?
You asked me to comply, but
Get
Ronald
those
never
vehicles
received
out of the
anything.
residential neighborhood. is
I
what
never
we-
received anything.
You did.
No, I didn't. You can't show me.
Well,
my
talk to
signature.
me,
We'll
Mayor.
talk to you after that.
He can talk to me offline.
I apologize, we've kept y'all a little later than we intended, but I appreciate all of you. This is, you can have the microphone, I'm not. So anybody that wants to stay till midnight with Miss Elamine, meet her on the front steps, because we're locking the doors. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for being here.